Hey, I think by now a lot of you out there have heard that the Democrats in Virginia have backed down on the assault weapons ban that was proposed by Governor Northam. It has stalled in the Senate. It's not going to be voted on this year. They said they may revisit it next year, but for now, they are not going to vote on it. Now, a lot of people are saying, yay, it's because of the sanctuary cities. They couldn't go against the people that transparently, so the sanctuary cities saved the day. Well, I'm going to say yes and no to that. It isn't because they weren't willing to go against the will of the people. They don't care if they violate the will or if they go against the will or violate the rights of 90% of the people, as long as they serve the 2% that are actually paying their salaries. And by salaries, I don't mean their salaries as a senator. I mean the way they make their money on the outside. You know, the money that comes into their campaigns, etc. They serve those people. As long as they're doing that, they don't care about 98% of the rest of the people. But there is a reason why these sanctuary counties actually cause them to step back and think, if you ask me, to step back and think. Because a lot of them said, you know, a lot of times when they pass these laws, these really anti-constitutional laws, they just don't enforce them except in rare cases where they want to. They just hope the fear of being a felon is enough to make people cow down. They don't enforce them, and that way no one ever has standing. They only enforce it if you're charged with other felonies, and that way no one ever gets to sue because they don't have standing to sue because they haven't been damaged, and it never goes to court. They get to stay on the books. Well, in the case of these laws, because there would be such a direct conflict between some county laws and some state laws, whereas the state laws would say this person is a felon simply because they own this, but the county law says they definitely are not a felon, they are allowed to own this. Well, that would set up a direct conflict, and that would mean there would be standing to go to court. The people that had the weapon in their county, which was legal, even if the state didn't come in and actually seize it and charge them, they would still have standing to want clarification between the laws. So it could go to court. And that's the last thing they want right now, because they're like, oh, if it goes to court, it'll probably make it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is not sitting real good with them right now as far as being anti-gun. As long as Gorich or how do you pronounce his name, and the other guy, the new guy, if they vote pro-gun, if they vote pro-constitution, well, then it will be up to Roberts. Now, a lot of Democrats are willing to take the chance that Roberts will vote along the lines of the institution instead of the Constitution and allow these laws to stand. A lot of them are willing to take that risk. But if they pass these laws now, this year, well, there's still 10 months this year where it'd be working its way through the court system, where there's one other thing that might happen. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, might become RIP. Let's face it, she hasn't been doing too well. She's very elderly. She may pass or just become incapacitated by a stroke or whatever in the next 10 months. And if that happens, she's going to be replaced by another conservative. And if that happens, anti-gun measures are dead. And right now, I think they're thinking the same thing here in Washington also with the magazine limit. They're wondering, because it's gone through the first reading, it's gone through the committee, it's gone through first reading, it's on second reading, it could be on the floor of the House at any moment, but then it would still have to get through the Senate. And these people like Washington and Virginia that are passing these laws, they're saying, wow, if we pass these laws and there end up being lawsuits and they're making their way up to the Supreme Court, Ginsburg's out, another conservative judge is in, well, then the hammer's going to come down on the side of pro-gun, pro-constitution, and we're screwed. It'll be a generation before we can ever get another anti-gun law passed. They'll, with the swipe of a pen, with the bang of a hammer, all anti-gun legislation could become illegal if the wrong case makes it to the Supreme Court, in their mind, the wrong case, and gets heard by the wrong people, meaning people who actually honor the Constitution. They're like, we could be done. It'd be like abortion, how abortion has had to, generations now, where it's been basically a right by some people because of what the Supreme Court says, and how the pro-life movement has had to fight so hard to even get the tiniest foothold and keeps getting defeated in court. That's the way anti-gun laws could be if the laws made it to the Supreme Court at the wrong time. It could happen right now. There's a lot of people in the anti-gun movement that are like, we need to bide our time, see who wins the next election, see who's going to be replacing Ginsburg, and then see where Robert stands before we get anything that makes it to the Supreme Court. Like the Hawaii case. They don't want those things making it to the Supreme Court right now because they're afraid of how they'll rule. So a lot of times they're backing off of things because they just don't want it to go through the court system right now. So I think the sanctuary counties are actually preventing them from wanting to pass these right now because, like I said, if they do it right now, could easily become a Supreme Court case very quickly. And by the time that case gets heard, Ginsburg might not be there. There might be a conservative judge sitting in her spot. And that would doom anti-gun legislation. And I think that's wonderful that will happen. I'm not wishing any ill on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but let's face it, she's retirement age and past. So if she retires for one reason or another, or like I said, passes away, they have to play the cards. They have to think, do we want to play this hand right now, or does it look like the House has the winning cards? And that's where they're at right now. So I think we're going to see a lot of these big measures backed off on until next year, till after the elections, because right now I think they're really worried that these things will actually make it to court. They'll actually make it to the Supreme Court, and Ginsburg won't be there. So they won't just have to count on Roberts. They would have to sway two conservatives, and I don't think they can do that. So for right now, I think we may be winning in the courts even more so than we think. Or at least the Dems are afraid to fight in court right now because we've been winning in the courts. And like I say, we have been winning in the courts. Don't give up on the court system yet, because we have been winning. And like I said, if any of this stuff does make it to the Supreme Court, I will be really curious to see if Robert sticks to his convictions and actually acts like a constitutionalist, or if he proves to once and for all that he's an institutionalist and shows us where he stands. But for right now, I think we have the winning hand. I think the Dems have the losing hand, and I think they showed that in Virginia when they backed off the assault weapons ban.